Hello, here is a video where we're going to do a plugin, make it from scratch for Xojo 2022 r1.1, and we're going to use Visual Studio 2022 for making the plugin. So first, let's start up Visual Studio, but make sure that you have the desktop and desktop development with C++ checked off and installed. And if you click the install, then it's there. Because it's already been installed on my machine, the total space required is 0. If you need to install it, it'll come up with a number like 740 megabytes or something like that. So the next part is to start up Visual Studio, and I've created an AddTwo folder. And in here, this is where I'm going to put all of the material and all the data for our files, so that way we have one localized spot where we're going to be creating the plugin. So in Visual Studio 22, we want to create a new project. So we create one, we do a search for DLL, and we click on Dynamic Link Library with Exports. Click on Next, it'll set most of the defaults. Now because we want all of our data to be in here, I'm going to copy that path and then place it in this location and select that folder. I'm going to call the project name AddTwo DLL. Okay, going to press create, and it's going to make the directory and the rest of the files that's needed. Now there's a lot of files that are on here that we actually don't need. So I'm going to open up the source files and the header files, and we can get rid of the DLL main and the PCH precompiled header file and press the delete key. On here we have a choice to either remove it, and remove just removes the link but keeps the files, or we can delete it, so that removes the files and the link. So we don't need that. We can definitely get rid of both the link and the files. Same in here with the header files. We can click on the framework and the precompiled header, press delete, and delete both the file and the link. So this leaves us with AddTwo DLL with our header file. We can delete all the code that's in there, and excuse me, in our CPP file, we can also, in our header file, we delete all of the code there too. So now that we have a empty AddTwo DLL header file and an AddTwo DLL CPP file, go to the next step where we can start to add the essential header and CPP files from Xojo. So the way to do that is I'm going to move this out of the way, and we're going to open up the SDK kit. So we'll go into C, and this is on Windows 11. C, Program Files. We go down to Xojo, click on the 2022 r1.1, go to Extras, and there's a Plugins SDK file. So go into there, go into the Includes, and we're going to need 4 of the files here. So we're going to need WinHeader, Real Plugin H. We're actually going to need the Real Plugin deprecated, the RB Plugin CPP, RB Plugin H, and that should be it. So we're going to copy that by going Control C, and I'm going to place it in this area. So there should be a whole bunch of other files that are in here. So we're going to add them to here. So with these ones, they're already selected. So what I'm going to do is I brought over the Visual Studio file, and we're going to drag and drop all of those into the header file area. So now they're all added. I'm going to do the same with the plugin SDK. We go into the glue code, and we're going to have to use the plugin main. So copy that. Again, paste it into this area where we're going to keep all of our files. And the plugin main gets added to the other source file, the other CPP file. So now we neatly have our header files and our CPP files separate. So we can close that out. Now with that, we continue on. We want to make sure that we have this in x64. We will want to change this to the release because that's where we're actually going to create the DLL file. So the other part is we're going to have to remove the precompiled header file. And that is when you right click on the AddTwo DLL, so the project file name, you go down to C++, and it should be in precompiled header. So you click on the use area, use backspace, and get rid of those two lines. So you press apply and go OK, and that removes the use of a precompiled header. We don't need that for here. Alright, and continuing onward, what we're going to do now is we're going to start to add some code. So in we're going to start off with the header. We're going to go to AddTwo DLL. So we cleared all of the code out of here, and we're going to add some, and I have some already created just to make it a little bit faster for you. Don't worry, the code's going to be included. And on here it shows that we have included the WinHeader header file, which is the one down here. Also the RBPlugin header file, which is this one. So here we have a forward declaration, which is just a nice way of saying this is the method that we're going to be having later on in the code. So an integer in C++ is int. When making it with the Xojo code, thank you very much, Bjorn, that we have to use RBInteger instead. That way it's safe across many different operating systems. So we use an RBInteger. Our method name is going to be AddTwo, and in C++ you have the type first and then the variable name. So we're going to have an X and a Y. They're both going to be an integer, which it's going to accept, and then it's going to return an integer coming back out. And of course that's going to be the two numbers that are added together, and the sum is going to be returned. The next part is to have our real method definition. In our real method definition, what we're doing here is we call it test module methods. So this is methods that we're going to be using in the plugin. So here we have this thing called AddTwo. That's our method that we're already declaring here that we're going to be having, they're going to be describing later on in the CPP file. Then our method here, we have to make sure that this is syntactically correct for Xojo. If you try and do this according to the C++ format, as an example, integer as x, when we try and implement it into Xojo, we're going to get an error. So this has to be the way that it's going to be done in Xojo. So x is an integer, comma, y is an integer, so that's the two we're going to be taking in, and it's going to return an integer. Whereas in C++, we kind of have it reversed. We have it so that we have to put the RBInteger, AddTwo, then the type name, the variable type name, and the variable again. Okay? And it's going to be real console safe. Now this is test module methods is actually an array. These square brackets mean that it's an array. And I'm going to be going back to this, which means that we can put in a bunch of different method names here. And because it's in an array, we can read through it sequentially and make it a lot easier so we can minimize the amount of code that we have to put in. The next step is we're going to go to AddTwo CPP. So I'm going to cut and paste this code, copy that, and paste. So in CPP, we have to make sure that we include the AddTwo headers, or AddTwo DLL header, AddTwo DLL H header, And what that's going to do is that's going to include all of this information that's here. So again, because we had a forward declaration in our AddTwo DLL here, we said that we were going to have this exact method. So this method is literally, except without the colon, placed in here. And we have this as our method. Then we have open and closed brackets. That's the way that C++ likes to keep everything separate. And we return the sum of the x and y values. So that's going to be returned back for the RBInteger. The next part is we have to tell Xojo in the plugin that we actually have a module in there, or how many modules or methods that we actually are going to be putting into Xojo with our plugin. So there's a lot of automated material in here, which is great. It makes programming a lot easier. So this is the kcurrent real control version, which pretty much just means it's the latest version. So let's say you want to have something that's using an older version of Xojo, you can put in a different control version there. So our one name of the module that we have is AddTwo DLL. So that's the one that we have up here. The other one is we have to load up all the method names that we have. So again, because test module methods is here, and this is an array, we're automatically using this as an array to load up the method names. Again, makes it a lot easier. And then the next part is we have to determine the size of the methods that we're using. And we can use that with size of and the test module methods and the real module method definition. So again, makes it a lot easier. Because we don't have constants and no properties in this plugin that we're making, we can set both of those to nil. And the last part is we have to register all of this information all together. So we use a plugin entry, and we call real register module, and we use this AddTwo definition, which is this, which is the real module definition that we have to use. So good news, let's give it a try and see if it'll start, or at least compile. So we're going to go build, we're going to clean our solution, we're going to rebuild the solution, and we have something here that failed. So when we take a look at it, it says real get control graphics with DC, the declare is deprecated. So what we can do is take a look at this. And the way that I found to work around this was to just comment this section out. Maybe somebody from Zojo will be able to explain that a little bit better to me. So then we'll go back to here. We're going to retry and rebuild it. So we'll clean the solution, get rid of all the errors. We'll rebuild the solution and see if we end up with a successful build. We did. One succeeded. That's what we needed to see. So what I can do now is I can close this out, and we'll go back to our folder here. And now there's a new one called x64. So click on x64, we click in the release folder. We now have this all-important DLL. So this is the plugin that we made. Don't worry about putting it into a special list. We don't need to do that right at the moment. We can right now, just for testing purposes, take add2dll.dll, and we can place this into our Xojo for the plugin area. It just makes it a lot easier for troubleshooting. So let's do that. Let's open up a folder. Let's go to C, go to our Xojo plugin folder. So we'll go to Xojo 22. We'll go into plugins. And we're going to copy this, and we're going to paste the plugin into the plugins folder. All right, now that that's done, we can start up Xojo and we can make our project. So I'm going to start up Xojo 2022 r1.1, and we're going to build a simple program using the plugin that we just built, so that way we can make sure that everything's working correctly. So Xojo is starting up. It's just about done, but what we want to do once it's finished loading up is we want to make sure that the plugin is actually loaded correctly. So let's continue on with the application name. Let's call this AddTwo app. Okay, and we'll click OK. Great. We'll go help. We're going to check to make sure that the plugin is loaded. Checking license keys. It's registered to me. That's good. Let's go to loaded plugins, and great. To Dll has been loaded and it's currently being used by the Xojo IDE. Fantastic. So with our window, the next step is we're going to add a button for the code, and we're also going to use a label, and we're going to show the result of our two numbers that we're going to add together from the plugin. So we're going to click OK, pressed, so that's great. We're going to save this just in case I do something. So we'll go to desktop, we're going to go AddTwo Dll, oh, we'll go back up to there, AddTwo app, Xojo binary project, save it. Now in our pressed button that we clicked on here, so we went here, double click to make sure that we have that. We're going to make we're just going to use it. We're going to call a variable, we're going to call it answer, and as a integer. Then we're going to go answer is equal to, now we're going to use our plugin, which is AddTwo Dll, automatically completes. Click the dot, and AddTwo is our method that we added. Now let's pick two numbers. Let's pick 4 and 9. Okay, so what this is going to do is it's going to use the AddTwo method that we created in our plugin, take the numbers 4 and 9, add them together, and then return the answer return the number into the answer variable. So let's show that answer. And we'll show that in our label. We're going to go label 1 text is equal to, and then we'll go answer to string. So we'll convert the integer to a string. All right, we'll save that information and we will run it. And right now it's compiling. The project is working across. It's the first time it's been compiled, so it always usually takes just a little bit longer on the first time. And then it's compiling the main menu bar. Great. So here's our running program. So if we push OK, it should add those two numbers together and then show the result in the label. 13. Lucky number 13. All right. We have it running. We have a running project. We successfully built a plugin in C++. Now I guess the next part is up to your imagination. Hope you enjoyed it. Bye now.